I think that we will have state ordinances and state regulations in the future. I don't feel that the city of Dallas, Houston, the larger cities would have gone as long as they have in the past without having an ordinance if there was a need for one. We don't feel there is a need for one.
How do you propose to go about getting rid of this one?
Well, of course, first of all, we're going to ask our attorneys to give us another legal opinion, and then probably go into district court with it.
Well, I'm moved by it, as I have been in the past. I think it's one of the most successful monuments to the spirit of John Kennedy that exists in the world.
Tracing leads in East Dallas, sheriff's officers spotted 19-year-old Russell Torres of Mesquite in this car in the 2000 block of Oates. But before he could be stopped, Torres jumped from the car and fled, leaving behind a small suitcase of clothes. Scores of law officers immediately were dispatched into the area, supported by helicopters. And for the next several hours, neighborhood residents could break the routine of a summer day, watching lawmen comb through the area. One officer went knocking from back door to back door. For a moment it was thought Torres might be hiding in a small barn, so officers converged there and found nothing. Then the hunt shifted to another area where something suspicious had been spotted, an open window or maybe an unlocked door, and this took lawmen even to neighborhood churches. But none of the leads turned up anything, and by the time an afternoon shower put a damper on the search, Torres apparently had made good his getaway. Jack Hill, Channel 8 News on the Move.
The DC-9, his right wing, sort of rock is some of them still rocky land to the one side. I noticed that just several times. And he slowly rolled to the left. And the next time when he rolled over, his right wing struck him to the ground and he slid.
Well, I think basically both of them have performed very well this training camp. We've reached the point now after 4 games, we've been alternating them from game to game now, and now we've got 3 games left. Now I believe they must kick equal for the remaining 3 games to be sure they have the same amount of kicks so that we can really evaluate them. And this is a reason for it. In the punting department, Bateman will do the punting again. He's only punted one game for us, and this is the reason he'll punt this whole game instead of alternating with Whitby. They're all been doing very well, the kickers.
But there is no chance at all that you'd keep a punter or a kicker on the reserve squad?
No, I don't see any chance for that. We couldn't get them through to start with, to get them on the reserve thing. We'd have to waive them, and 25 teams have to pass them, and that's not possible that they would pass this type of kicker.
Tom, isn't there a chance then that you would try and make a decision on your kickers after the game Saturday in hopes of possibly getting a draft choice or a trade of some sort?
Well, not necessarily. Usually in a trade, if you're trading a veteran player, then when you trade them is not really important because everybody knows them and they know what they can do in the season. Now, if you, say, had to make a trade for a Bateman, for example, then there's some advantage in getting him there earlier than later. But when you talk about Clark and Whitby, the records show, and the teams will know that, and they'll trade for him even up until the last day.
In a preliminary report several weeks ago, the cause of the Delta DC-9 crash, which killed 4 persons, was air turbulence. The turbulence supposedly created by a DC-10 aircraft, which preceded the Delta DC-9 on the Greater Southwest Airport runway before the accident. This morning here at Green Oaks, the first witness of 18 to be called was William Johnson, the FAA controller, in the tower at the time of the crash. Johnson repeated several times during questioning that the Delta pilot had been warned of possible air turbulence. Johnson felt there was sufficient distance between the 2 aircraft. FAA Controller Johnson said that since the May 30th crash, additional training is being given air traffic personnel on air turbulence created by large planes, such as the DC-10. Hopefully, it will aid in avoiding another tragedy. Jim Green, Channel 8 News on the Move in Fort Worth.
When's the last time you... Sergeant Shriver arrived here at Love Field an hour and a half later than he was scheduled, chiefly because of the delay in Johnson City. He ate lunch with President Johnson, and the entire conference took 3 hours. But eventually, the Shriver jet did pull up here at Love Field, and although he was in a rush to get downtown, he did take time to answer some questions from reporters. Is Mr. Johnson a little reluctant, perhaps, to support a McGovern Shriver ticket?
He's enthusiastic about it. He encouraged me, even before George McGovern asked me to be a candidate, he encouraged me to accept it if asked, and he's been enthusiastic about my presence on the ticket, and he's enthusiastic about the ticket's chances for success.
We saw the aircraft as it came by, and he was in an inverted position. As he hit the runway, of course, it looked to me like his right wing burst into flame.
Inverted now, you mean he was tilted one way or the other?
Yes, it looked like he was tilted pretty much, as you would say, completely vertical. Not horizontal as we call our, regular flat flights. Whether this came out of his bank as he come in to shoot his landing, at that time, of course, it's hard to tell.
Was there an initial explosion?
Yes, when his wing hit the runway, of course, it burst into flame. And I would imagine, my own judgment, he slid probably 1,000 feet, maybe 1,200 feet. And as he came to rest, the plane, of course, turned over on its back, so to speak, and broke in. The tail broke off the aircraft, and then we had our secondary explosion at that time.
Another witness to the crash, Bob Moore, said the plane left a trail of flames a half-mile long down the runway that glowed a hot yellow-red. Smoldering debris was left throughout the crash path. There was talk at the scene that a DC-10, which had preceded the Delta DC-9 in touch-and-go training, may have left behind some turbulence which could have caused the crash, but Moore said there was at least 5 minutes between the planes. It was 3 hours before all 4 bodies were recovered from the wreckage. They have since been identified as Captain George Gray and Captain Franklin Cook, both based in Atlanta with Delta Airlines. A third Delta pilot from Irving was identified as Captain Johnny Martin of 3612 in Canto Circle. The fourth victim was Randolph Hull from Keller. Hull, an inspector with the Federal Aviation Administration, was on board as an observer. The flight recorder was recovered intact and will hopefully supply the answers to determine exactly why the crash occurred. An investigative team from Washington is already in Fort Worth, sent by the National Transportation Safety Board. Their investigation may take weeks. Jim Green, Channel 8 News on the Move.